Yes, sir, Dieter and Jake on a Tuesday. Jake, we've watched the film. All these guys in the locker room, I got to watch the film. I got to watch. That was a tough film to watch if you had a
Really tough
vested
watch,
interest.
man. Really tough watch.
You sent me a million clips today. I was watching the game back. Game broadcasted a couple of pro things. It was so much worse than it seemed in the moment because they had this weird connection to the Chiefs score-wise for a lot of that game for no viable reason. It didn't look as bad. It just kind of glossed over a lot of these issues. Linebackers, abysmal. Lines, abysmal. Safety play, questionable outside of Malik Mustafa.
Defensive line, I was okay.
Yeah. I mean, they had their moments. Offensive line, guess what? Wasn't good. And Jordan Mason did not have a good game. And then we knew this. We knew that they got clamped down in man-to-man, particularly on big downs. Even more glaring when you're able to watch it in slow-mo and rewind it and all that. We'll get into the most damning clip of the game. Honestly, it was hilarious. It's a hilarious clip. We're looking forward to sharing it with you. But first, Jake, we got to go through what was just a downright incredible injury report. If you don't believe that this team is cursed, have I got some news for you.
I feel like we need a sound effect for this. We need a graphic.
Just sad trombone.
There it is. There it is. I'll clip that. This is, I just said it, probably the worst injury report we've had for the 49ers since 2020. It's not like all these are season enders, but just in terms of what just went down and the worrying nature of some of these. Deebo Samuel had to be hospitalized because he has pneumonia and water in his lungs.
Yeah. Doesn't seem great.
No.
That's not even a football injury. That's just horrible luck for Deebo Samuel. I did see on the artist formerly known as Twitter, apparently, I did not see this firsthand because I don't go on Twitter on game days. And I try not to go on it, but you get a little bored. It's Monday, you're tired.
Oh, yeah.
You dive on over.
See what you missed.
You go and swim in the sea of shit that is Twitter/X. Love to be propagandized. And apparently, I have to take these shit posters at their word. There was a contingent of people, perhaps in sports media, mostly on the fringe of it, who were questioning if Deebo Samuel just sort of sat an NFL game out. Like this was the NBA.
That was real?
I have to take them at their word that there was some sentiment to that degree from anyone with an ounce of credibility. Because if some jackass says it, of course, everything has been said ever on Twitter. Like it's just a fire hose of opinions. You'll get every one of them.
Tell us
known
how you
to
really
man.
feel.
I mean, I'm just, I'm out. Regardless. Apparently, there are some local radio hosts that might have suggested lightly that Deebo was a puss, I think would be the nice way of putting it. And that, oh man, he didn't gut it out for his team. Again, he is not Joel Embiid playing the second end of a back-to-back here and just saying, I'm not about it today. It was the Kansas City Chiefs for a 3-3 football team. Like the idea that NFL players are just taking her easy couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, they should take it easier because of the amount of shit that they put into their bodies to play meaningless games. And whether you believe this was the most important game the Niners play all year or it's week 7, therefore it's meaningless, you won't believe the amount of possibly illicit drugs that were shot into these men's bodies in order to play this contest. I draw the line personally. As much as we will criticize players, get on them, I don't think that we're in any way shills for the players. In fact, we might even get the reputation of the other side. The idea that someone would question the toughness of an NFL player,
let alone Deebo,
Deebo Samuel, human wrecking ball, is, I can't take anything that person says seriously again because it's such a stupid take.
It's insane.
That it undercuts your credibility on any take you'll ever have. That's all I'll say about that. I hope Deebo feels better soon. He doesn't like us very much. That's okay. in the
That's fair.
media, not us. He might like us personally. He just can't show it. He's got this whole shtick going on. Pneumonia with fluid in the lungs, that's brutal. And
Yeah.
just another tally on the cursed season that is the San Francisco 49ers 2024.
Yeah, I'll just go through it.
Yeah.
So, obviously, the big one, they were like, "Okay, we think Aiyuk might have torn his ACL." Of course, it's not just an ACL, it's
Nope.
MCL, and then Ian Rappaport putting out there that there might be further damage, which is just,
He Nick Chubbed it.
like, as bad as it could have possibly been.
Did it seem that bad? Watching the replay, you go, "Oh, that's not good. Like he isn't going to play." I didn't think that his knee exploded.
I couldn't even tell what happened. The angle we were at, like, I couldn't see if it was, like, his hip. The way he rolled over, it looked bad.
Might have been an
But
ankle.
I only
Yeah,
knew it once he wrapped his knee in a towel on the cart, and I was like,
yeah,
"Okay,
yeah. That's over.
that's." um,
You got to
yeah,
if you can't have an ounce of sympathy. There's one player who you don't have to have an ounce of sympathy for getting injured. That happened yesterday. Rest in piss,
correct,
Deshaun Watson. But
correct.
everyone else, it's like that's brutal. That's fucking
Yeah,
brutal. Has nothing to do with the Niners. Just on a personal level, that's
oh,
brutal.
yeah, I
And I
mean,
feel for Brandon.
it's just like it's a fucking grind, man, to try and even if it's a small injury, like a calf strain, like, and then you have to spend your entire year, every
Yeah.
day is just, "Can I
Ugh.
ever get back to what I was?" It's brutal. And George
What a
Kittle was like,
stupid sport.
"It's so violent." And
Yeah.
Kittle was like, he didn't get choked up, but he was like, man, like, he was just, like,
Yeah.
really looking like himself. Like, you watched him in this game, and he was damn good. Like,
Yeah.
even when he would get pressed hard and, like, he would get stopped for a second, he would snap off on the second opportunity and create separation. You just go, they just that's their guy that was, a crux of how they could run this offense, and it's fundamentally gone.
It committed to him for 5 years. They firmly believe that he is
Really more like
arguably the most important player on their offense. He's the highest paid player on their offense until Brock gets paid, which I did like that little spicy nugget you dropped in there on the Sunday night stream, which is maybe you just franchise tag him if he can't get it done this year, which get in line, buddy. I don't think you pay anyone until you absolutely have to. And I'm willing to ride the franchise train as many years as you. If he's Kirk Cousins
yeah.
2.0, replicate the whole situation.
Speaking of which, the Niners paid Aiyuk, which that's the only thing that, like, from his perspective, you can take solace in is, like, you got it,
Yeah.
and there was a situation where they could have made him play on the fifth-year option,
Oh,
and at a
I
certain
thought
point,
about
we
that.
said they should have.
Yeah.
But, like, good for
And
him. Like, I'm always pro player in that
yeah,
situation.
now he's coming out of fifth-year option off an exploded knee. If he resigns, it's for
God,
a make
thank God
good
he got that
contract.
for
For
him.
him, yeah, for him and his family, thank God he got that deal.
You've got Aiyuk out for the season. Debo, who may not play this week. Juwan Jennings with a hip injury, which Kyle, like, subtly was like, "Yeah, we don't know if Debo or Juwan will play this
Well,
week."
as you noted, Jennings
Jennings.
didn't practice at all this week. Like to believe that he's just gonna be back, like he could, but that feels more unlikely than likely.
Yeah, and Chris Conley has an ankle sprain.
Huh.
And so, as Kyle said, he basically he was like, "Yeah, like, he was asked about Pearsall and all the young guys, and he's like, "Yeah, Pearsall, Cowan, and Bell, all those 3 guys they're gonna get plenty of snaps."
Well, it's good
And
that Cowing looked pretty good actually, and that
I
Pearsall had his
I
moments.
went through the tape and I broke down every single wide receiver snap, and sometimes it's tough
Yeah,
because certain things like O-line, D-line, it's fairly clear what the assignment is.
right.
Quarterback, you can sort of assume some things like what the progression is, where they pick their head up. You can't assume everything, but you sort of go on where does their head go first, um, and what was the coach's reaction to what they did. You let that inform you. Receiver and corner can be tricky because there were quite a few times this game where it's like, was that the right route? Like,
Yeah,
like that play with Ronnie Bell it where Purdy got intercepted, and that was like the gut punch.
yeah,
Bell came wide open, but he was probably supposed to run like a blaze out, and that's what Purdy was expecting.
yeah.
And so, and the corner didn't really react because he was probably expecting that same route. And so Bell, that's really the only time he got truly open all game. And it was probably the wrong route despite what they said.
So something we noted on Sunday night is that Kansas City seemed to know where the 49ers were going consistently. So I understand that both Kyle and Brock said that Brock screwed that play up with Ronnie Bell. But let me ask you, there was another party involved. Does the Kansas City Chiefs corner who intercepted the ball know the play better than Ronnie Bell? And frankly, evidence suggests that he might. And he was standing in the right spot and Ronnie Bell was not.
He
It does
didn't
not
even
matter.
react to Bell, like
No.
snapping off. He was
No,
like,
and
"No,
it could have been basic cover 3. I haven't looked into the play in any depth
yeah,
because
and
it
maybe
doesn't
we're
fucking
wrong.
matter.
And if we're wrong, that was Bell's best play of the game, and it ended in like a game probably losing interception.
And the worst throw I've seen Brock make in a long, long time. A Garoppolovian throw, if you will.
Listen, you watch Brock in this game, first quarter, 3 of the worst plays I've seen from him. Second quarter gets it going a little bit, starts playing well. Third quarter, okay, and then fourth quarter, he has like one good drive that doesn't matter.
Right.
And
Yeah, it was
man,
already over.
do we want to get into these wide receivers here? Do you want me to talk about my grades of how these guys perform?
Well, I do, but I do want to finish up here. So again, Kittle day-to-day with a foot. Christian McCaffrey's not coming back for this game. Not that anyone in their right mind
Right.
would have suggested that he would.
And
Deebo
then-
Samuel's in the hospital with pneumonia. So they play Sunday. I'm going to
Oh, and
go
by
ahead
the
and
way,
say he's doubtful.
Here's the not at all inspiring quote when he was asked about Dre Greenlaw. Kyle goes, "Everything's still going fine, but no time soon."
Yep. And then Jennings and Conley. Jennings probably not going to go. Again, I'd categorize him as doubtful today. And Conley day-to-day with an ankle, as we all are day-to-day with ankles. That's just the offense. The defense, it's like the defense might even be worse because they could probably use some injuries to get some younger guys in there because some of the guys that they had out on the field on Sunday should know. I mean, this is an extreme statement. I don't say it lightly. There are some guys who are out there on Sunday who should no longer be employed by the San Francisco 49ers. Well, there's one guy who should no longer be employed by the San Francisco 49ers. And this is where we go to Jake's film corner and we talk about.
Just pull it up. Because, like, listen, I'm not trying to laugh at stuff, but this was so ridiculous.
Okay. Let's just run the play first here. And for all of our listeners, we're going to apologize. You can even probably fast forward. This is a jet sweep to Mecole Hardman, a play that I would like to note. They ran for a touchdown 3 times the last time the 49ers and Chiefs played at Levi Stadium.
Right.
3 times.
And you had what was it, Jameson Williams in the playoffs who ran it for a touchdown. It was almost same thing.
Who would have thunk that a good offensively coordinated team would run the same play that worked 3 times not that long before? So Mahomes is under center. He brings Mecole Hardman in motion. We have, I believe, that's going to be Kareem Hunt in the backfield. Okay. You have Travis Kelce in the Y position. Doesn't matter who's over here at Z. I don't even know who's at X. I know who's at X. It's Mecole Hardman. He's coming on a jet sweep.
Right.
Now, let's it all enjoy as Mecole Hardman currently has the ball. Devondre Campbell is lined up on the line. In fact, I'll even pull it back here. Devondre Campbell lines up on the line of scrimmage. This is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-man front. We're going odd man front. You have 3 linebackers behind him, in effect, because Jair Brown has come into the linebacker spot, as he is so wont to do. You have Malik Mustafa up high. Here comes Mecole Hardman on the jet sweep. And here goes Mecole Hardman around the end from the 40 to the 30 to the 20. And let's watch and see how long it takes Devondre Campbell, who is setting the edge on this play, and notice that Mecole Hardman has the ball.
Theoretically be watching the point where Hardman is getting the ball. That's all he should really be looking at.
He's literally staring at it the entire time.
He has one of the best vantage points. I mean, maybe he peeks his eyes towards Kelce and sees what he does, and that's what takes his eye off it.
His head, as Chris Forster loves to tell us, watch where the stripe goes. The stripe is looking at Mahomes the entire time. He has what I would say in the NFL is a pretty clear line towards this play.
You can look actually you can see where his shadows go.
And he is again on contain. And now here, this is the operative image, Jake. He is still looking in the backfield. Mecole Hardman has the ball right in front of him. He is separated by 1 yard, 2 yards, right in front of him.
Right.
He's still looking in the backfield.
And listen, he's
Mecole
probably
Hardman's
not going to
looking at the
make
end
this.
zone.
He's probably not going to make this play either way. What matters is how long it takes him to realize Hardman has the ball. We counted. It takes
1,
Hardman
2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps. Look at when his head switches over here. He is 4 yards, 3 yards away from him. Ran right in front of his face. And it took 6 steps and 3 yards of separation. By the time Devondre Campbell looks, Mecole Hardman's already at the line of scrimmage again. What the fuck are we doing here, Jake?
Look, yeah. I mean, look Fred notices like pretty quickly. Like immediately.
He's also got Smith up in his grill.
Oh, yeah. No, like he's not going to make a play on this, but he at least sees it. Everyone else sees it. And it's just, if not for Malik Mustafa, this is probably a touchdown.
Mustafa sees it. Watch this guy shoot out of a cannon. Pow.
He's a menace.
That's a great rep from Mustafa and one of the worst reps you will ever see from a linebacker. It's one of the worst reps you'll ever see from an NFL player. I get it. Kansas City is trying to do some misdirection.
And
right? Mahomes fakes the handoff here.
Either way, but
you're on contain. This man's coming on a jet sweep. You're supposed to funnel him inside. You're on contain, and you couldn't even contain him until here, when he's already outside of contain, already going at the second level because there's no one between him and them. You have 2 blockers out front. This is a cuttable rep amongst so many others. What are we doing here, Jake? What is this?
Bad. It's really, and to make like sort of a big picture point, there was so much watching this defense where you just go like, what is happening here? There's like the Chiefs are so connected, right? We're talking about how they know what's coming from the Niners. They have a game plan for it. They're basically that 2-point conversion at the end of the game. They don't give the Niners a shot. They just bracket everything. They have a safety who could switch off to whoever it is, and no one separates, and the Niners have no chance to convert from the second that play is called. And you watch the Niners defense, and it's just like you don't know if the other linebackers know the play. You don't know if the play call actually makes sense, or like there's no clarity. There's no identity.
It's either the most complicated scheme that's ever existed or exceptionally poorly run, and where not just one but multiple players don't know what they're supposed to do. Because you look at a lot of these plays and you're like, oh, it's cover 3, but then what's that guy doing? And what's he doing?
Right.
There's a couple plays like that you were able to send over today. But again, this is just simple stuff. You're on contain. You've lost contain. And you don't realize it until he's 6 steps.
Right. And I realize like he's looking for, Mahomes on the play action, right? But guess like you've got guys inside who are covering that. And he's watching the ball the whole time. It's just
he gets like 3 steps from past in front of him before he notices.
And Campbell's whole selling point at this point in his career is that like, mentally, like he's got it, physically it's gone off. But like when that happens and it takes 6 steps to realize who has the ball, it's just you cannot have that. And I don't know. There's just a lot of watching this team where this was really hard film to watch in the sense that like on offense, you just got protection breakdowns. And when there's not a protection breakdown, either no one's separating or, Purdy has an opportunity and he takes the check down when he should actually be ripping it, or it's like everything is off all the time.
It was a
It's a team it's a team that did not have a training camp together, and it shows.
That's exactly what it looks like. It's just a hell of a clip. It was a great find by you. I am even less optimistic today than I was on Sunday night. Because on Sunday night, I'm like, there's still too much talent. There's still too much season. And while all signs point to, my God, this has gone horribly wrong and it's not going to get any better, the devil's in the details, and the devil has won. They're awful. They're an awful football team, Jake. I can't believe they have 3 wins. They're awful. Kansas City made it look easy against them.
Yeah, and that's with Mahomes turning it over twice. It's tough. It's tough. I mean, you even go back to that one drive on defense where you have Bosa jump off sides, you have Givens jump off sides. There's 12 men on the field.
Mm-hmm.
There's
12 men on the field while the other team is in the red zone. Some real Dan
one.
Lanning shit right there, huh?
Right. It's hard to even know where to start because there's so much that's wrong, and there's still like core of like if you beat the Cowboys and get a bye week and get it together, there is a chance, but like it was brutal. It was brutal. They looked completely lost against a team that was as dialed in as any team I've seen. And that's even when with like Mahomes having interceptions and the Chiefs offense making some mistakes. But like the Chiefs just looked like they knew exactly what the Niners were going to do on either side of the ball. And the Niners did nothing to dissuade them. And yeah, a huge part of it was like there's no separation from Niners receivers on some key man coverage snaps. But this was I think
fourth
Pooney,
quarter, 10 minutes to go,
and Banks.
And they're trying to run the ball into the end zone. And I mean,
they're trying to run stretch to the right, and Pooney gets crushed. And the other angle where maybe Mason can cut it in and bounce off a tackle, Banks can't get to Bolton, and
which happens a lot. Not just with Bolton, but with Banks getting to the second level. Doesn't have the foot speed.
It's like when this offense is at its best, it's like the run game is working and it's clicking. And those looks of like, we're going to run a stretch run, it leads into a pass protection where it's like a play action off of it and it's barely pass protection. And they just can't build anything because, again, I said it before, it's like there's no foundation. And I know this seems incredibly nihilistic and incredibly harsh, not to go Joe Mazzulla, we're all going to die one day. But like
Kyle.
Yeah, Kyle, I think, needs to go more nihilistic and just say it's happening now. But everything is imprecise. If it's the offensive line working, it's somebody not getting open. If the offensive line is not working, everyone's open. It's never one thing. And Kittle was like, it's the play before the play where you had so many opportunities where it's always one missed block. And it's like, oh, why did they run that weird third down play call? It's like, well, the play before somebody botched their assignment. And you can say that on either side of the ball. And like, I know I'm generalizing, but like you can pull up so many clips from this game and it's just someone can't get there. And there was one point in this game where I just watched, Chris Jones toss Jake Brendel aside like he didn't even exist. And I'm not just trying to rip every player on this team because people will have a good game and then have one like ill-timed mistake. But when there's so many mistakes being made every single possession at key junctures and your quarterback can't trust anything he sees and is now, his superpower was trusting everything he sees and he's not trusting anything. Like, I don't know what you have. I don't know what you can believe in going forward.
Nothing. You can't believe in anything. The characteristics that you described a moment ago, where if, one thing is failing, this other thing is failing, or if one thing's going well, this other thing falls apart. This is how teams talk about the Carolina Panthers. This is how you talk about bad football teams.
Oh, yeah. This is
This
the
is a
one with
play where
Jones.
just Brendel just gets absolutely destroyed by Jones. Get out of here.
Like, just,
Not e
like, look at how quickly easily he discards him.
Get on the ground. Look at Brendel's body like, oh, fuck, man. By the way, Banks gets blown up on this one too by a linebacker. That's Leo Chanel. Blowing him up. Bolton's doing this. Look at Bolton. This is how good he is. This is what he does every
Like, I
single
don't
play.
know.
You
Like,
give him a window, he's going to hit.
Banks is supposed to get like a push here and jump to Bolton, I guess.
No,
and then
no, he's supposed to win. This is classic. This is straightforward stuff.
Yeah, but
no,
Juice is coming too, and
Juice
so I
is
guess
supposed
he's
to fill
supposed to
this hole. Juice is supposed to get into the B gap.
Right. You're right.
But he can't because Banks gets stood up by a linebacker. So,
which, by the way, that linebacker just timed it again. Like, they know the timing of all these things, and they're so prepared for it. But this happens, man.
It's a
Every
great
drive,
play design.
times.
And this is, for as much as I think Kyle does deserve a lot of scorn. I wrote 1,400 words today on Kyle and his passiveness and playing to not to lose so you don't win. You can draw up a cool ass play like this. Okay.
Yep.
This is a cool ass play. You have the fullback and the tight end coming in. They're supposed to fill the B gap and the A gap. You now have, but it doesn't work because your left guard and your center are blown up almost on initial contact. And so, yeah, Kittle does get into the A gap there and gets the strong side linebacker. He could have blocked him. He didn't really have to because the play was already over. But Juice can't get over in time. And Bolton, who is as good as anybody in football, including Fred at this, is right there.
You go back to the stuff that works and these giant chunk plays that set up everything for their offense. And it's almost everyone making a block, and you're getting plays pretty consistently where there are 2 to 3 guys. I mean, you could pull up the one with Saubert and Banks, and everyone's open on that play. And everyone's open on that play, and they trip over each other's feet.
Right.
And it's just like, I honestly am with you. Like, I was very harsh on Kyle and his conservatism. But there's like a fundamental lack of function where I'm like, regardless of what he did,
you either have to pare this offense down to be so goddamn simplistic that even the lowest level players can run it, or you just have to live with the volatility that persists on not having good enough players. Kyle has his hands on every roster move. I'm not in any way exonerating him, but this is a John Lynch issue. This is in Kyle's ideology on we're not going to go and pay guards or centers. We're gonna go with the flash positions. Those are more important in that we can scheme it up on the offensive line. If you don't have an offensive line, you don't have anything. You don't. And everyone goes, well, Mahomes doesn't have a good offensive line. The fuck he doesn't. He has terrible tackles, but he has the best interior offensive line in football. And they play to that strength. You have one good offensive lineman if you're the San Francisco 49ers. One. You can't play to the strength of left tackle. That's not something that you can do. It's not fundamentally sound football.
And Kansas City, listen, I'm watching a lot of these plays and protections are hard when some guys are peeling out. But like there's one where like Trent Williams laid out exactly how the Chiefs love to run blitzes in key situations where they'll put Chris Jones on one side, and then they will run a blitz on the other side.
Right.
And he laid this out very clearly, and the Chiefs did that, and the 49ers looked fundamentally unprepared for it. And then there was another one where it was going to be a 6-on-5, right? You're going to lose because they're bringing 6, but it ended up being 2 unblocked. And this is game after game after game where the 49ers can't set the protections right. And any team that has a mildly exotic blitz look that overloads one side, which, they're hard to pick up. I'm not saying it's easy to identify every single time, but this is the one you get 2 guys on the right.
What is this protection, Jake?
I don't know.
Chanel. Okay, so first off, you're going with a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6-man front. Okay, you know that not all 6 are coming. You know that they're not because you're in third
But
down, and you have to.
yeah,
And they're going
but Jones is lined up on the outside, and you know it's a key situation, and so I don't know. They look like they're going to bring pressure. Maybe they're going to bring it from the right. I know that's
They bring it
couch
opposite Jones because
quarterbacking,
everyone needs to slide protection to stop Jones.
but
Except
in what world?
you have Trent
In
Williams on him. If you can't trust Trent Williams to beat him one-on-one or at least hold up one-on-one, what chance do you have with anything? This
in
is a
what world is McKivitz not taking one of the two guys on the right?
legitimately, this is a Jake Brendel issue. How do you not identify this at the line of scrimmage? Okay.
I mean, what I think should
1,
happen is
2,
yes,
3, 4, 5, 5.
right,
What's
right.
Kittle's job here?
And here's the thing:
Nothing.
Kittle just like releases outside. You would hope for him to chip because if he throws a shoulder, he could actually throw them into each other and blow that up.
But
But I
also,
mean, I
Brock
think
could
you
also throw it to George Kittle right here.
right. But I think you go back to it. Go back to it. If Brock's hot answer is to the left, right? Wouldn't you rather isolate Williams on 95 and slide the rest of the line to the right? And then if the linebacker lined up over Banks comes, Purdy at least is looking at the pressure. It's in the direction of the way he's throwing, and his hot answer is in that direction, and he can see it coming rather than getting destroyed from his blind side. And even despite that, it's a bad throw from Brock, and Aiyuk's open. But
I'm
he's also getting murdered. So
Why
it's
would
just
your
and
hot route
listen.
why would your hot route be on the left side if the blitz is coming from the right? And why wouldn't the Niners know? Because they
All
did know.
season long. All season long, it's been a problem where, listen, I don't, it's fundamentally insane where they're setting the protections away from where the pressure is coming from. And then Brock is having to go, it's
Th-
maddening.
There's
And
something way
I'm
off.
sure they would look at this and go, "Oh, you guys have no idea what you're talking about. This actually makes sense." It doesn't.
No, it
It
doesn't.
doesn't,
It
and I'm
doesn't.
not saying I have the answer. I'm just saying the fact that you allow 2 unblocked blitzers when Trent Williams points out specifically before the game how they like to run their pressures, and they run them exactly how Trent Williams lays out, and you have 2 guys unblocked, and Banks is covering no one, and you're double teaming one. It's just on a key third down,
To
and
not be
your star
prepared
wide receiver wins, by the way, clean.
to not be prepared for this play
And by the
in
way,
this
Brock he
situation
just misses it.
is
But he also knows
unacceptable.
he's gonna die, and he has to layer it over Bolton, so
I would also like to note that this is almost exactly the same kind of blitz that they saw last week. They saw the same kind of blitzes last week with Seattle, albeit with worse defenders.
and guess and you know why? Exactly where I'm going. Seattle's defensive coordinator, he killed him with the Ravens running this exact same kind of blitz where you peel off 2 guys on the left side and you overload the right, and it's just like if you
Okay.
can't set like, you're not a talented offensive line, if you can't set the protection where you have a chance, I don't know how you can function. I don't know how you can expect Brock to trust anything.
I want to
And
be
listen, like,
clear. Brock
we're
doesn't deserve exoneration on this. He
no,
doesn't. Look at how
no.
he's throwing this ball. Okay? He's
Sure,
totally
yeah,
squared shouldered to where he's throwing it cuz he's ducking his back as part of his throw. Okay? And the best quarterbacks in the NFL, the true cream of the crop, somehow find a way to deliver the football here. I don't know how they
and
do it,
in
but
the
they do.
past, Brock has done exactly that. He's taken shots, he's stepped into it, and he's just saying, "All right, I'm gonna get this off." But he's also probably feeling, "Oh, this is how I snapped my elbow with
Mm.
just a guy coming off the edge right as I'm throwing it. Let me make sure I get this thing out."
How many times can he get hit on his right side in a single season before he starts bracing? We have the answer. It
He
was
gets hit.
the amount of hits that he got before this game because this is a duck. This is a duck. And if 23 or 27 here, the safety for Kansas City is in a better position, if he had already set his feet,
Right.
this could have been intercepted with ease. And I'm sure that whomever runs this exact same blitz, and it's going to get run again and again and again, they're going to have that safety sit a level lower as opposed to going up and trying to cover, be the single high.
And again, either way, you've got somebody unaccounted for. But at least have it be the guy who's in the direction of where Brock's looking and let him make a play.
So the guy who's unaccounted for here is Chris Conley, I think. Hard to say because Kittle, you could maybe go Kittle in the seam, Pearsall on the flat. That's more of a clear.
I mean, they're all basically open.
And you go to Aiyuk on that deep post. I get it. That's where the ball should go.
That's the only place he can go. He's looking left, and he's about that's the only place to go, and he wins.
But look at it. Like McKivitz stunts outside. Look at that step. What's that going to do? What's that doing? He has to block 3 men. So as much as I want to say, hey, Brock, you need to be better, because he does. This ball needs to be thrown better.
Yeah, and it's that little like tiny step up too, where if he just plants his feet and rips it, like he's going to take the shot either way. But like that little like click and tiny, it's bad. But and the thing is,
you can't live with this kind of protection. And by the way, it's not even strictly it's not like the other play where Banks gets blown up or someone gets blown up and you lose, or someone gets around the edge and you lose. This is strictly a tactical failure on the offensive line. What is this? How do you not know that they're bringing pressure on the outside, the Kansas City Chiefs opposite Chris Jones? The fact is they did know it. They told us they knew it, and here it comes, and they're not prepared for it.
Right.
And you want to get on Kyle? You want to get on Brock? You want to get on Jake Brendel? All 3 of them have a hand in this. Chris Forrester, all of them have a hand in this. This is a complete failure of a down. And I know we're harping on the negative stuff here, and there were good plays in this game. But the system is fundamentally broken if this is the kind of stuff that's happening, because we have a dozen more of these, Jake. A dozen. We're not going to do them anymore, but we have a dozen more of these. Easy.
It's just hard to even parse through and make sense of. They're just dysfunctional right now. Like you can be like, oh, there's no rhythm. They're making the wrong protections. And when the protection right, the amount of plays that are right, that are just, okay, we called the right protection or the right run play against this look, nobody held. It is like, oh, there's no flag. Oh, right. No one missed their assignment. Is so rare for this team right now. It's shocking. And it's shocking. And the reason like we can go this hard on it is because this is a team that like almost won the Super Bowl last year, and that's your expectation. If you're setting it there and you're saying, oh yeah, that's what our goal is, you're kidding yourself, because you are miles from that. You are making mistakes on almost every snap, and most of the time it's damning. And like, here's the thing about Brock. Brock did not play well. He had some horrible interceptions in this game and made some horrible mistakes, and he missed some looks that in the past, when he was feeling it and he's confident and he can trust it, he'd rip it. There's one play like early on where Pearsall runs a corner and he's wide open, and Brock takes the quick check down, which is open, and it's a completion. But when he's at his best and this offense is at his best, he's making those throws and testing defenses, and they have to account for that. And how can you expect him to look better and not look panicky when nothing's functioning, when now you have lost your top, really only true like man separator receiver? Brandon Aiyuk's done for the season. Right. Juwan Jennings is hurt. We don't know what the severity of that is. Sure, that would have helped, but their answers, their hot answers, still are confounding. And so you still have to like get the answers right, and they're not getting those answers right. But sure, you're without Juwan. Debo, we'll see if he's back this week. And so now you're in a situation, Chris Conley might not play. Like Kittle, I guess he'll probably play through the foot sprain with a bye, but like you're in a situation now where you got 2 rookies and Ronnie Bell as your wide receivers.
Yeah.
In a must-win game. And granted, it's the Cowboys, who are totally dysfunctional, so they might not watch any tape, and they might say, we're not going to run any man because we're insane and we don't want to do that.
Any coach with their Todd Bowles is going to run nothing but man. We know McDonald is going to totally put together a really good game plan. Whether his team can execute it is to be determined.
Right.
Oh my
But,
God.
I mean,
what's Green Bay going to do to these guys?
I would think Mike Zimmer is capable of watching film and identifying, "Oh, we should run man."
I mean, Green Bay is going to do it. Sean McDermott's going to do it.
I just don't see a
Eberflus is
way
going to do it. I don't
unless
know who the Rams guy is, but he'll probably do it.
for this team, you need to win this game, and then Debo comes back, and Jennings comes back, and McCaffrey comes back.
Yeah.
And maybe it falls into place. After watching what I saw, and again, I know they're missing pieces, but, like, the most important piece is Aiyuk, and he's gone.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing that can really help you, and when we were talking about Pearsall, it was in conjunction with Aiyuk. It was not to replace him, it was to say, "Oh, you put Pearsall and Aiyuk and Kittle, and then maybe you get McCaffrey back, then you got something."
Yeah.
Now they lost Aiyuk.
Against man. Yeah.
And they're asking so much of Pearsall, who clearly is still learning the offense. There was one point he was supposed to go in motion and didn't, and there was one play where he didn't turn quick enough, and there was another play where just the technique of the route, he cuts inside too much, leaves himself susceptible to a safety, gets rocked. He eventually comes open because he's a great player and
Yeah.
wins, but the timing is wrong, and Brock has to take like a little 3-yard run because he gets ripped by a safety because 5 yards in, he just leaves himself susceptible to that because he's a rookie in his first game who missed all of training camp. And it's just like, I don't really see a way out for this. I think if they win against Dallas, Dallas is incompetent enough where I think that's possible. But the dysfunction of this offense, I have a hard time putting my faith in anything they're doing. And I would happily be proven wrong, and I will state what they do
We'll,
right as we do every week because we
we'll
don't
go
have an
through it.
agenda with this. We call it as we see it.
No.
It's pretty bleak right now, and you would hope that this is a time where they'd go, "This is a joke. We like let everyone's going to live in the facility for 7 days straight until this game."
Yeah.
And they're going to figure it out. And the offensive line is going to study protections until their brains don't work.
Mm-hmm.
But after, like, I just don't know how you can believe in this team anymore. And I don't know how they could be favored in any game going forward this season.
5.5 point favorites on Sunday.
Are they really?
Yeah.
I mean, listen, it's Dallas.
Money.
It's Dallas. They're a
easy
mess.
money.
But you have to be able to function as an offense. You have to be able to function as a defense. And the defense was much better than the offense in terms of functioning. And there were still some plays out there where I'm going, there are 2 or 3 guys who don't know the play.
Yes. Or two guys who are running. Who are 2 guys who are running. It's not even just 2 guys who don't know the play. It's oftentimes 2 guys who are running the same, doing the same thing on the same play because they're mixed up on responsibilities. This, again, it's one of those things that you can't really notice in the moment. You have to watch it as we just did 20 minutes, backwards, forwards, because it's impossible to keep track of 22 just on TV, certainly, because you don't get all 22. Right. And then in person to just note it, you see it once. You don't get to focus on you're oftentimes watching the ball, or you're saying, I'm just going to watch Pearsall, or I'm just going to watch Aiyuk. You can catch stuff out of the corner of your eye. You can predict what's going to happen. I was pretty good at that. I felt pretty good about my predictions on Sunday. Like, oh, they're going to bump motion to Kittle. That's going to be, wide open, all this stuff. You can see that, but unless you're able to fast forward, rewind, and then just take stock of what all 11 players, all 22 players are doing on a play, you really don't have any idea about the coordination or the execution. And both of them were so much worse than we thought, and we thought it was abysmal in the moment. It's damning. And so you ask, you say this is the week that everyone needs to get into the facility and just study for 7 days, and we're going to do protection. I think that pretty clearly they don't have the coaching to do that, Jake. I don't think that they have the assistant coaches on this roster to fix this problem, because the problems keep getting worse. And yes, Kansas City is the most extreme form of this. They are the alpha male, the final boss, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But everyone's operating off of their Super Bowl tape. the 49ers have been playing up against people cosplaying as the Chiefs all season long, for better and for worse. And then they get the Chiefs and they look worse prepared because, again, the players aren't as good. But they don't look as prepared to win this game as they did to win the Super Bowl. And why wouldn't every other team in the NFL just double down on that?
They're showing no answers whatsoever.
They're
and
getting worse.
They are. And listen, something worth pointing out that is, you criticize Lynch, and a pretty damning indictment is that the Chiefs are fundamentally built in a way that couldn't be a worse matchup for the
Right.
49ers, where we
Right.
talked about it. Everything is the inverse.
Right.
And again, they're getting no yards after catch because teams are playing man and they're not getting any. It's just going to get worse until they can prove that they can beat man and get some of the zone stuff. And McCaffrey is basically their only route to do that. A guy who we don't know what he can provide. And maybe honestly, you only start him off as a receiver and you just run Mason.
By the time Christian McCaffrey comes back, there might not be anything to play for.
That's true.
I would put it at more likely than not that we don't see Christian McCaffrey this year, because this idea that he's just going to come back after the bye week feels fanciful to me at this juncture. That's the best case scenario. They lose to the Cowboys, then they might rush his ass back out there.
From his perspective, is he really going to risk it if this team's not serious?
3-5. If they're 3-5, and then they get Todd Bowles and Vita Vea against this interior,
Jesus Christ.
You see we're not giving ourselves enough credit here, Jake. You nailed it on the head on Sunday night. This team needed to be 5-2 at this juncture, 6-1. They needed to go into their bye with the majority,
at minimum 4-3, and go into the bye 5-3.
And they dicked around for months, letting the contract stuff run all the way out before just totally giving everyone anything they wanted.
Dude, how are we? Yeah, we need to really address the fact that the 49ers way of doing business is fundamentally flawed. Yes. Every single player who has been through it, Nick Bosa, who started off slow, he's like, yeah, I started off slow. I definitely affected me. Debo had a terrible year, was injured all the time.
Yeah.
And then Aiyuk, it took him, this is game 7, and Kittle's like, yeah, it's the first week of practice. He looked really good, because they have this way of doing business. And then Trent Williams, he's an exception to the rule.
Right.
But get serious. You're going to claim that you're ready to win a Super Bowl, and paying Aiyuk is you doubling down on that. Pay him earlier. Just whatever it takes if you're going to pay him.
Especially, too, if you gave him everything he wanted. You didn't win. He got everything he wanted and didn't have to show up to work for 2 months. So you gave it to him anyway. This team is operating. It's fundamental at this juncture. This is a team that functions as if they're going to go out there and just win the Super Bowl, as if you don't have to scrap and fight for every yard. Shout out Al Pacino any given Sunday. They just said, oh, well, we're so good. We're so talented. It will all just get sorted out in due time. And we can wing it up until the point when we actually have to get down to brass tacks, which is week 7. We'll just wing it up until then, and it will be fine because we're so good. It's the same team that's operating. How is that not a directly correlated to a team that negotiates, as in, oh, well, we'll just win anyway. It doesn't matter. We'll push this thing all the way to the end, and we'll win the negotiations. Then they didn't. Oh, well, we don't need to have training camp. We'll just win in the end anyway. They didn't. They're high on their own supply, Jake. They fundamentally believe that they're better at this than everybody else. And the evidence has pointed off the field and now on the field at the exact opposite.
And it's looking very much like year after year, this team has been stacked with talent, and they've generally replaced talent well enough. And now it's there's just not enough in the reserves because of so many of those missed picks and all that to make up for it. And they're just hanging on by a thread in every single second of the game.
Kansas City has to build the team the same way. Okay. And Kansas City didn't trade 3 first-round picks for Trey Lance. Kansas City didn't trade a boatload of draft picks for Christian McCaffrey, which was worth it, unquestionably. I don't care if he hasn't played this year. It's been worth it. They got to a Super Bowl on his back. It was worth it. But you think about Kansas City. They let Tyreek Hill go. And you go, well, they don't have any receivers now. It fucking doesn't matter because they got the quarterback. They let good tackles go. And they have bad tackles now. It doesn't matter because they prioritize the interior and they can scheme away from the tackles. Defense is where it's most telling.
Could you imagine if they just drafted Creed Humphrey?
I can. I dream about it all the time because I can't do it anymore. I can't do it anymore.
That's actually going to be my mission the rest of the year is to find out
why they didn't.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, because Jake Brendel's going to be fine for them. Or, we already have Mack, who was telling everybody. My wife knew that Alex Mack was going to retire through the grapevine. And this is not hyperbole. She knew he was going to retire before the 49ers did. I couldn't report it because I couldn't possibly tell anyone. My source on it was my wife who talked to somebody who was at his wedding. It's like, what are we doing? So let's just look at, okay, you sign Chris Jones when you're Kansas City because you got to sign Chris Jones. He's fucking unbelievable. Just like Nick Bosa. You got to sign Nick Bosa. He's fucking unbelievable. What do you do on the interior there? Well, now you build an entire line to highlight the qualities of Chris Jones. You have a scheme that uses Chris Jones and how you have to build a game plan to stop him. You use that against teams because you have a good coordination. And you find a guy like Tershawn Wharton, who I was talking about before, undrafted, D2. You keep him in the system, you develop him, and now you can unleash him because you have a great eye for stuff like this. And now he can start opposite Chris Jones and wreak absolute havoc. You say, oh, man, we got L'Jarius Sneed. Well, L'Jarius Sneed was a replacement for Mooney Ward. And L'Jarius Sneed comes in and looks just as good as Mooney Ward. And Mooney Ward's a very good player, save for this year, but he's been a very good player. He was a good player for Kansas City. He was a good signing by the 49ers. But Mooney Ward is gone. You bring in L'Jarius Sneed. Well, L'Jarius Sneed's about to get expensive. What are you going to do? Congratulations. We found this guy, 7th rounder undrafted, can't remember. His name is Jalen Watson. He's just as good as those guys. This team drafts or doesn't draft and develops as well as any team in the NFL. And that allows them to consistently win in the shell game that is the NFL salary cap when you're paying a quarterback $450 million.
Yep.
Travis Kelce had a pretty good game yesterday. There were 2 other tight ends that had good games yesterday.
Kelce wasn't irrelevant. He actually blocked pretty well.
It is jarring to me to see the differentiation between how Kansas City built this team. And we talked about the ideology of it, but just strictly, they're drafting and developing players that are of a high quality. They're not just fill-ins who can give you some snaps. They're players that can make an impact. And here's the final thing. And then I'm sorry, I have been talking all over you. But like, you also have arguably, this man loves arguments, the best kicker in football. Okay. He's problematic on one end of the spectrum. I don't care what you say. I don't like what he said. He's entitled to his opinion. I'm entitled to mine. They also bring in the punt god, Matt Araiza, who not every team would have done that given the circumstances. I'm not going to comment on the overarching circumstances. I don't know. I can tell you this, that boy can kick the fuck out of a football. So you have that. You bring back Mecole Hardman because you had to let him go because he signed a big money contract with the Jets that you couldn't match. But when the Jets got rid of him because the Jets are an incompetent organization and they go, oh shit, we'll take him back. And they get him for effectively free. And now you have a great punt.
They only use him in ways that benefit his skill set.
And they use him a lot against the San Francisco 49ers because they don't know how to stop somebody like that. This is a team that has an identity, has coordination, is creative, and develops. This is everything you want a football team to be. The notion that it's just Patrick Mahomes going out there and gunslinging, that might have been true in some ways on Sunday, but this is everything the 49ers are not. And by the way, they're locked down with coaches. Their coaches are exceptional.
And this is after maybe the best draft the 49ers have had in a few years, where we actually agree that they made some good picks, but it's a little bit too little too late.
That's right.
Because they're all rookies and you want them to be in their second or third year. And that's where the attrition comes in of all those missed Lance picks, is like you weren't building up guys as backups and developing them. And also, one thing you just touched on it. The Chiefs take special teams seriously. Kyle Shanahan, his disgust for special teams is so apparent when asked, we all should have followed up on it. But he was like, no, they
Do no
asked about
harm.
bringing in kickers, and he's like, no, I don't want the kickers. And he sort of shrugged it off. And it's like, shouldn't Bill Belichick took special teams incredibly seriously.
Right.
Why do we let him off the hook for not
You're the
caring?
head coach of the entire football team. And if your defense was so bad, this was an issue last year. His defense was so bad, he was spending a lot of time in defensive meetings because he's the head coach. And he felt like he was coordinating the defense at times, I've heard, because that's what the head coach has to do. Now, I'm not saying that he can't also have his day job of coordinating the offense, but the idea that it's not his responsibility as he wishes it to be, and he tries to hand off to Robert Saleh and D'Amico Ryans and Steve Wilkes until he had to take it back. The idea that you can just set it and forget it with that is wishful, and it's not going to. It's Andy Reid can do it. Andy Reid sure as shit can do it, and yet he still doesn't because he's the head coach of a football team, and that responsibility is more than being a cool ass play caller. And by the way, his offense looks like shit. This thing can fall off the rails significantly, and we're going to find out on Sunday if it does, Jake. And if it really does fall off the rails, what I saw in that film, if it continues, is enough we can get to the point where they need to fire him. I'm not saying that should happen. I'm not saying it will happen. I'm saying if this is what the 49ers put on tape for the rest of the season, they're going to lose a lot of games, and it's a fireable offense for him.
Yeah. I think if the 49ers look like what they looked like against the Chiefs for the rest of the season, you have to question every single thing about the way this operation is structured. And again, this is because that tape was bleak. And I really if you're actually a 49ers fan, I actually don't encourage you to watch it because it's going to make you sad.
Yeah.
I will say if you want to watch something interesting, watch Ricky Pearsall because he wins certain reps, and then others he gets absolutely clamped. He's also a rookie, so he gets no respect. When he gets a jersey pull, they're not gonna call that. I was critical because we promoted Pearsall a lot going into the game. I felt a little bit better about the way he played after. That said, it wasn't good. I mean, I had him graded as 15 good plays, 8 bad, 2 very bad. So
and you also have very goods on that chart. And he didn't have a very good, did he?
I don't think he did.
No. Who was impressive from the wide receiver standpoint?
Kittle, Aiyuk,
Cowing?
Yes, my highest graded receiver. I have a weird system that I'm going to explain as quickly as I can, just because I feel like I have to explain it.
I appreciate
it. I very good, bad, or very bad, bad, neutral, good, very good, and I weight. Yeah, and I weight bad and very bad slightly more than good and very good, because to me, if you're making a damning play, that's better than just a good play. So that's where I have it. I had Cowing.
More significant.
I had Cowing as the highest graded receiver. Had 1 bad play, 4 good, 1 very good. That
was a really
pump
good
fake,
that was a
really
great
good.
sluggo. Yeah.
I think it's going to be Cowing and Pearsall a decent amount. My worst graded wide receiver, you might guess, Ronnie Bell, who's only listen, he blocked okay. I see a couple times where I'm I get what he, for the most part, knows what he's supposed to be doing, but he can't do it. He doesn't have the skill set. He's not an athlete, really.
Not compared to
and
his
I'm not
peers.
just trying to be harsh on a guy who everyone's ragging on, but it's hard to throw him out there and take that seriously. I know that's harsh, but it's the reality of when you watch it. You're if he separates, you're pretty surprised if it's man coverage. You're pretty shocked. And his best one was that interception where he got a bunch of coverage because he probably ran a route that was wrong. I don't know.
There was
a
disconnect somewhere.
I liked what I saw from Cowing. I honestly thought Chris Conley had a couple opportunities where he probably should have gotten the ball. He's not, blowing people away, but he can run a route. He knows how to play wide receiver, and there were a couple times versus man where Purdy could have gotten him the ball, but as we talked about before, protection breakdowns, all this. Pearsall, there was a lot to like. I think more to like than to dislike. It showed a lot of, this is his first game. He doesn't know the little nuances of, like, don't start right at the safety who's going to throw a forearm shiver to your face and take you out of the play.
Yeah.
Things that take time to learn, and he just hasn't had time to learn. He doesn't really, and he's going to be thrown out there. But when he had chances and he could snap off, and he was snapping off, especially outside, looked pretty good. There's a lot to like. I will say, lastly, Renardo Green looked damn good. So does Malik Mustafa. Those two guys, very good.
There's something to be said there. I think you hit the nail on the head. You like a lot of this rookie class. The circumstances that they're being thrown into, probably not fair, and they're going to have some downs. But man, like, where was the rookie class the year before that? Where's the second year guys? Where's the third year guys? I know they're on the field, but they're not making impact plays. Why are the rookies looking so much better than any player between big money veterans and them? I mean, where's the middle class?
Like, you just go back year. Like, they drafted Jair. They didn't have a first or a second. They drafted Jair. They drafted Moody, who you can rip on Moody all you want. Good kicker. Very good kicker for the most part.
Better than Anders Carlson.
No question. And then Cam Latu, who, I'll say this now, and I've said it before. I had a list of tight ends that I evaluated, and tight end was a position I took pretty seriously.
Yeah.
Cam Latu was the only tight end I had that I had guys ranked by good at receiving, bad at blocking. Good at blocking, bad at receiving. Some upside, no upside.
You had 27 grades.
He was the only one that I had a red that was like, don't draft him. Seventh round or later. And they drafted him in the third.
Yeah.
And listen, we've been wrong plenty on this show, and we will admit it. They drafted Latu, Darrell Luter, who they're high on but has not played. Robert Beal, these are 5th round draft picks. D. Winters, then 7th, Braden Willis, Ronnie Bell, Jalen Graham. It's the 7th round. It is what it is, right?
Yeah. Year before that,
Drake Jackson, round 2. That is a devastating pick. And that was a pick that, like, a lot of people liked, and I thought it was good. But that draft class is honestly, that's what damned them. 2022. Because you go back to it, and it is Drake Jackson in the 2nd round, Ty Davis Price in the 3rd round, Danny Gray in the 3rd round, Spencer Burford in the 4th round, Sam Womack in the 5th, Nick Zakelj in the 6th, Kalia Davis in the 6th, Tariq Castro Fields in the 6th, and then Brock Purdy. Horrible and bailed out by Purdy.
2 players are on the roster outside of Purdy.
3 technically. Drake Jackson still in the building.
Oh, the fuck he is.
But he's out for the year.
And it's not as if either of those guys are making an impact.
Right. And by the way, the year before, 2 third-round picks, Trey Sermon, Ambry Thomas.
Yeah. But
then you killed it in the late rounds, because they usually kill it in the late round. But like that, it was that's what it is. That's what it is, because this would be the year that guys from 2022 would be like, you're hitting it. You're in your 3rd year. You're hitting your stride. You're a key player on this team, and they got nothing except for Purdy.
It's the most telling part is that they had to go out and sign not 1 but 2 defensive ends, old veterans, with money that, by the way, it's not like they're giving top dollar, right? They're just having to go spend middle class money on that. They're having to go and get another linebacker. They're having to get a guy like
egged on them, and they'll see him this week.
Yeah. And then, well, either one of them, right? They had to go and they brought in Ike Adam because they didn't trust Luter, right? And they didn't want to go with the rookie. I don't know why they didn't bring in a safety, but they didn't. They did pay Odom, their special teams ace, who has been awful, $5 million.
They openly scouted this safety market a ton, and then like didn't go for someone when the market was actually pretty affordable, because the safety market is one of those that's just bizarrely cheap.
Didn't spend any money on offensive line, but did draft Pooney in the 3rd round, and I thought that was a total stretch. And I think we're somewhere in between. They nailed it, and Dieter thought it was a total stretch right now.
He started off great, and as Forster said, teams are getting more tape on him, and he's looking less great.
They draft 2 wide receivers to try to beat man press. But again, it's like that's a great thing to be able to do if you already have your ducks in a row. And they don't. They're taking out payday loans to pay off their credit card bills, is what they're doing there. They're trying to solve immediate problems through the NFL draft. That's what bad teams do, Jake.
And fundamentally, they're trying to tell us all, we did it in 2021, we turned it around in 2022. This can be like that. Every single sign, every single fiber of my being is pointing strongly that this is like a 2020 lost season. And it's not like next year sets up much better because they've got all this money tied up. They're not getting younger. All of their core is going to be a year older, a year with more attrition.
Aiyuk isn't going to be there for week 1.
No.
Not with that knee injury.
No. And then George Kittle, again, you still have zero plan if George Kittle goes down, which he just takes shots every week and
Trent
battles
Williams
through him.
goes
And he's
down.
like the only thing in the offense that's like functioning at a high level. And you're just like, George, go and do everything for us all the time and just survive, I guess.
You mean exactly like in 2020?
Every single thing. And again, I'm telling you, that Bills game, I've said it before, it feels like it's setting up just like it was the gut punch when they had the COVID thing and they had to go to Arizona and they're like, we're going to turn it around. We're going to turn it around. Nick Mullins played. And then Josh Allen took a bazooka and destroyed them. And that was their season. And that's what it feels like they're heading towards. And at least they have Brock Purdy. But I like as much like Brock deserves plenty of criticism for a lot of the things that went wrong. But like, they are not giving him a chance to have the answers.
I mean, if
And
they didn't have a quarterback of some quality here, the season would be completely cashed right now.
100%.
There'd be no reason to believe. The only reason
that
that
is the only thing holding it.
The only reason to believe in this team is that they have a quarterback of some rapport. And frankly, the level of belief is directly correlated to how good of a quarterback you think Brock Purdy is, to which we can have a very good debate because it's still a question. It's still a question. I think Brock at his best is as good as almost anybody.
No
but
question.
We have not seen that frequently enough. And consistency is what takes a good quarterback and makes them great.
And this is in a season where you get tested and you say, can he do it without Aiyuk? Can he do it without all these pieces? And a lot of that lies on Shanahan, but a lot of it lies on like the offensive line. And it's just
that's the flip side, right? Like Kansas City, they're like, oh, we don't have any wide receivers. Well, you have a great tight end, 2 really good tight ends, if we're being honest. Noah Gray's a very good player. And then you have $50 million worth of interior offensive linemen. Like, you feel good about that. You can run a guy like, you're not spending $19 million on a quarterback. I just want to quickly note here before we get out of here, because this was an all-time rambler.
Yeah, we went way longer than I think either of us expected. But after that tape, I mean,
it feels cathartic.
It feels like this thing is so close to being over.
Right. They're on the brink. There's no question about it. Let's just pretend for a moment that the bookies are right and that Dallas is so dysfunctional that even the San Francisco 49ers in their current form can beat them. Bye week. I've never felt more comfortable about anything than Tampa Bay beating the San Francisco 49ers team. I don't know what these teams are going to look like during that, whatever. Maybe McCaffrey's back. Maybe
Godwin's out.
I don't know.
Evans is aggravated a hamstring. We'll see.
But that Tampa Bay defense, while not as good as it once was, is very well coached and has a dude in the interior that's going to fuck their shit up in Vita Vea. If he plays, that's a huge issue. He is good enough to single-handedly win a game. And let's just play this because I think you're spot on with the Buffalo thing. Dallas, win. Tampa Bay, loss. Seattle, at home. Let's call it a win. They're not winning. They're not winning in Green Bay. Green Bay, I don't like Jordan Love very much, but I love that defense they got going on over there. And that's a well-coordinated team, and they're going to push all the right buttons. That's going to be
5-6.
5-6 going into Buffalo Sunday Night Football.
Where you say, hey,
you don't come back from 5-7.
We're 5-6. We win this. We're 6-6. All we got to do is be above 500. We beat the Seahawks, who are the top of our division. We'll beat the Cardinals on the last day of the season. We'll sneak in at 9-8. and we'll just do this thing, right? And
you nailed it. You nailed it.
Josh Allen, I'm
Josh
telling
Allen.
you, I feel like that is going to be the nail in the coffin because they're gonna hang on enough because they've got
Mhm.
Brock and they've got Kyle, and as much as they're missing pieces, like they're still just barely talented enough, I think,
Yeah.
to win this game against the Cowboys and go into the bye and all this false hope and just. But man,
Win, loss, win, loss. We're just going to ride the roller coaster, and then back-to-back losses, you're done. That
and
means,
listen,
frankly, you want to break it down. You can't lose back-to-back games. The second you lose back-to-back games, your season's over, right? Because you've already done it. You can only do it once a season.
and listen, if this thing does turn around and it fundamentally changes, we will happily call it out. But
Oh,
that
we'll
was
know. It'll be obvious.
that was horrendously coached,
Mhm,
horrendously executed,
mhm.
and just on like a general philosophical energy level, like weak. Like
Yes.
it went out weak and sad against this team that looked like they were firing and clear in their identity.
They
And
toyed with him, Jake. They fucked around with him for fun. They didn't
I
even
just
play a
have
good
trouble seeing
game.
this thing turn around this season. I really
I
do.
agree. We'll find out. We'll find out.
We'll find
But
out.
I will say that whatever happens in this Dallas game does not exonerate or wipe away what happened against the Chiefs. And I'm very curious to see how insidious the knowledge that you can't beat these guys, and not just can't
Right.
beat them in, hey, we missed a play or two. Like, they whooped your ass. I'm interested to see how that manifests from here on out,
I'm with
because
you.
that shit seems insidious, and it's going to bite them in the ass at the worst possible time. If you made it this far, God bless you. A true sicko. Tuesday nights are for the sickos, Jake.
Yeah, folks, listen. Um, I didn't mean to just say this is all over to go full Joe Maz on you. But that's what the tape showed. It showed no
Explain to me how
reason
it gets
for hope.
better.
It showed
Explain
no
it.
reason for hope. It showed a team again, I like that just knew exactly what the 49ers were and had answers for everything, and the 49ers had none. We'll see. We'll see, folks. But
Hopefully we had some answers for you, and hopefully you don't drive your car into the median after listening to this.
please, please
We'll
take
have a
care.
big breakdown on Friday, and I think that's going to probably have more to do with here's what the Cowboys do, and here's how the Niners can beat it. Because I'm
It's
fascinated to
setting
really
up.
get into their tape
It's setting up for a really, really funny game. A really, really bad public game.
on
Um,
national television.
oh yeah, just the most national game of all time. Just 49ers, Cowboys. Oh god, both these teams are a disaster. Can't
Yeah,
wait.
this is how you'll know that brands have no real sway anymore. They're putting
No.
this on because of the names. It was like the Jets Steelers game on Sunday Night Football. It's like, oh, they're just going on spec here because private equity has gutted both of these operations to the core. This is brutal. This is brutal, man. And that was a brutal show, but I enjoyed it. So hopefully you
I
did
did
too.
too. I did too, folks.
Legitimately, if you made it all the way to the end, I think we owe you money. So
Yeah.
please subscribe and give a like.
Send
You
us
can
a fax and we'll reimburse you.
invoice us for your time. We'll talk to you Friday.